my solution is it's not about doing more. So I often talk about the myth of more, or the M myth. Everybody, it's a cultural thing out there on social media, etc. Well, just do more marketing and it's going to get you the results. Just do, spend more money to get more revenue, or whatever it happens to be. But it's the myth of more. I believe it's all about doing less, better.
Welcome to the Adriana Ostapenko podcast. I'm here with Diana. We have met recently, I'd say, but we've become pretty quickly well acquainted. We've had quite a few calls already, getting to know each other. I found, the moment I met you, I found so many synergies on, I think, our values and how we view things around business and business ownership and the entrepreneurial lifestyle. I really like the way you speak, the way you organize your thoughts, the way that you share your wisdom. So I'm really very much looking forward to having you on the show.
Oh, thank you. That's quite the introduction. Thank you so much. I think when we had our first conversation, it was an effortless conversation, and we could have kept going for a longer time. And so, I was thrilled to have you on my podcast, and now I'm thrilled to be here on your podcast. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to kind of do a bit of an intro to you on your background, and I'll let you speak after that on your end and some storytelling. Diana is a sought after business coach for small business owners who want to stop being chief everything officer, or the CEO of their businesses, and transform their business into a self-running engine. Diana Lidstone is a best-selling author, award-winning speaker, and a podcast host. After almost 40 years as an entrepreneur, she's best known for her straight talk, no BS, and the simple business and marketing strategies that bring her clients more joy, profit, and freedom. Her podcast, Work Less, Profit More business podcast, offers tips and strategies for small business owners who want a sustainably profitable business without burnout. I love it, love it, love it. The mission statement here is beautiful. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you became a business coach.
Ooh, that's a long story, but I'll try to keep it short because I have been an entrepreneur for more than 40 years. I've been a coach for about 10 years. And, when I go out there and speak, it's always about storytelling, right? And so I have been working on this talk called The CEO Who Cleaned the Toilets. And so I'm going to share that because that's, in a nutshell, basically how my coaching sort of evolved. So the story is, there was a CEO, a business owner, a woman, and she had these visions of abundance and freedom dancing in her head, like many of us when we start our businesses. And as her business grew, she found herself doing all the work, right? And so she was the owner of a retail store. So she found herself doing the buying, the special custom orders, the bookkeeping, the hiring and the firing and the, analysis of the metrics and all these different things, even though she had several employees. And her family said to her one day at dinner, Diana, Mom, they said, I don't think we're ever going to start a business because you just work too much. And I went, out of the mouths of babes. But the thing was, I was doing it all, including cleaning the toilets in the retail store. And that CEO, that chief everything officer, was actually me. And it was a little frightening because what happened was, and this was about year 5 of my retail business, I remember exactly, I was sitting in my back office, and the phone rang, and it was my daughter's doctor. Now, he said that she had been diagnosed with something called chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's not a life-threatening illness, but it is a life-altering illness. And what he said was that she, at the age of 14, would never get any better, would never probably finish school, She would probably never hold a full-time job. She'd probably never get married. All these dreams and hopes that mothers have for their children just sort of went out the window. And I wasn't satisfied with his recommendation, which was, no, there's no cure for this. There's nothing we can do. I'm a little bit obsessive when somebody says you can't do something. So I started spending a lot of time, and this was back in the year 2000. So social media wasn't the same as it is now, neither was the internet, but I started doing a lot of research and ended up finding a cure for her, actually. And she is now well, thriving. She went on for 2 university degrees. She's the mother of my grandson. All that is good. But the upside to that also was I realized then my business, I could no longer be the chief everything officer if I wanted my business to grow and if I wanted to be able to spend time with my daughter. And so I really had to start looking at how could my business run without me? Ish, right? And so that's where work less, profit more was actually, those were the roots of it. I went on to sell that business, kind of wandered around a little bit, didn't know what I was going to do, when a good friend of mine said, Diana, you've started businesses and made them very successful. Why don't you show other people how to do that? And I went, you mean like coaching? And she goes, yeah. Okay. And I went, I had never at that point really hired a coach. I had had mentors with my retail store, but never knew much about this coaching industry. So back in 2013, I started my coaching business. And the story I tell was the first client was actually a financial advisor who paid me $300 a month for private coaching. And since then, I've learned a little bit and moved on a little more, but that's kind of the short version of the story.
Thanks for sharing that. And it's obviously, I feel like everything that we really have of so much value to offer to the world normally comes from a place of, something that we struggled with ourselves or learned from or suffered from, because that's really how we can relate. And there's just such a passion that comes around, hey, you could feel at the end of the day how important it was for you to have time freedom with profit so that you could take care of your daughter and be there for her when she needed you the most. And you needed to solve a problem there that now you can offer to other business owners and entrepreneurs. So I love that. Thanks for sharing. I know that one of the first times we talked, and in your podcast too, we kind of talked a lot about the different challenges that entrepreneurs and business owners face. I wanted to ask you, since you coach so many different entrepreneurs and business owners, what are the most common challenges that you see us facing?
Well, there certainly could be a whole myriad of challenges. I think one of the things is that I'll go back to, and since most of your listeners are probably real estate investors, I'll say one of the concepts and principles I love sharing is that no matter what expertise you have, whether it's a real estate investor, whether it's a lawyer, whether it's a bookkeeper, financial advisor, whatever, I think we need to think of our businesses as a two-sided coin. One side is our expertise. So if you're a real estate investor or, a client of mine who's a lawyer, that's one side of the coin. But the other side of the coin is the business of business. And one of the challenges I find for entrepreneurs is that they invest a lot in their expertise and they continue to invest in their expertise. And if I ask an entrepreneur, have you invested the same amount of resources, time, money, or energy in your expertise and the business of business? And they go, no. So typically they've invested in certification, a big coaching program, whatever it is, and they keep getting more tools in their expert box. or their expert side of the coin, but not so much in the business of business. And so I often ask entrepreneurs, what business are you in? And really, they're in the business of marketing their business. And they're not in the lawyer business. They're not in the real estate business. They're not in the real estate investor business. It's the marketing of that business that really will bring them the profits, etc. So I talk a lot about joy, freedom, and profit, those three things, because a lot of entrepreneurs come to me and they say, I've lost the love for my business. I'm working way too many hours and I'm not as profitable as I want to be. Those are the three big challenges that people come to me with. So you as a multipreneur know what it's like to, be that juggler. And if you can make yourself the least important person in your business, then you're on the right track. If you're the most important person in your business, that's not leading to the freedom that you want.
I find that when it comes to that specifically, there's this juggling of, money versus time. Mm-hmm. Because as you are gaining more time freedom, usually you're sharing your money more with others. There's no other way. As every time I hire somebody new, I get a chunk of what I was paying myself. I'm like, okay, there you go. This is going to get allocated to somebody else. So that we can scale and grow and I can get my time back and I can focus on other things. So I find that juggling of money and time, I find, sure. As you know, I'm in the process of selling, but I was running a virtual agency for a couple of years, which is really helping small, business owners hire those first couple of hires for their business. And that's the question that everybody has in their mind. How do I pay them? And I'm like, you have to share what you currently have to get you going your path to time freedom. What would you suggest as a solution around that?
So my solution is, it's not about doing more. So I often talk about the myth of more, or the M myth. Everybody, it's a cultural thing out there on social media, etc. Well, just do more marketing and it's going to get you the results. Just do, spend more money to get more revenue, or whatever it happens to be. But it's the myth of more. I believe it's all about doing less, better. So where can you focus your time, and energy, your resources, on the growth activities versus what I call the maintenance activities? And those growth activities are what are going to move the needle in your business. And those are typically leveraged activities.
Can you give an example?
Okay, so let's say, I'll use this as an example. It's not exactly, but if you think of, let's talk about maintenance activities. Okay, so maintenance activities, if you're the one that's sitting there doing your website, tweaking it, improving it, that's a maintenance activity. Are you the one editing your podcast? Are you the one that is doing your graphics? Are you the one that is taking your content and sharing it everywhere? Those are maintenance activities, bookkeeping, all of those. Those are the activities that are needed to keep your business running on a day-to-day basis. Growth activities actually are marketing activities, where you are out there driving the growth and getting those qualified leads, etc. And there's a difference in growth activities. So I always use the one, networking. Okay, networking is a great growth activity. However, it's building relationships one-to-one, right? Face-to-face, shaking hands. It's time consuming. I feel the best way to use networking is to use networking as, where can I network where I can find speaking opportunities so I can come back to that group and speak to that group where I'm speaking one to many. Make sense?
It makes lots of sense. We're in agreement there. This is where we have actually met. We're in a speaking, program together and getting out there. I've heard you speak a couple of times. I feel like the same. I see there's so much value in that.
Yeah, that's just one example. I actually have something that I use with my clients, and it's a bit of a time audit. So it's a sort of a freedom scorecard. And we talk about whether you're doing $10 activities or $10,000 activities. And we go through this list, and it's very enlightening for clients to look at where they are actually spending their time. So doing your own time audit can be a really great way to figure out where you are spending your time.
So here's a question for you. I recently I don't know if you know or if you've come across Wealth Dynamics is a test which ultimately helps entrepreneurs kind of understand what's best suited for them activity-wise to make money.
Okay.
So it's really quite interesting. It's kind of like profile personality test style, but it's related around wealth creation. So I just recently did it. I did mine, and then my husband did his. He has a construction company, and something that's come up in between ours was, as you said, like usually the business owner is the one that's out there, is creating the opportunities, is marketing, is selling. That is not necessarily his primary skills because he's more shy. He's an introverted. He's not into large groups.
Yeah.
You could not get him on stage. Just as an example, he doesn't enjoy networking. So we were having those conversations like, what does that mean for you to be like the business owner, but yet not the person that's, out there like joining the masses and creating all this, promotion for your business? What role would you say that, is more appropriate for him, or how would he go around still growing his business in that case?
Yeah. So it's interesting. And I'm going to use a term that all coaches use frequently. That all depends, because I feel that, first of all, I feel that there's too many programs out there about growing your business that are like, watch these 15 videos and that's how you're going to grow and scale your business. No, because every business is different. And just like you said, each entrepreneur, each business owner is different. So there has to be a blend of, really, there has to be a customized approach. And that's how I look at what I call my work less, profit more framework. Okay. It's got to be customized. So I'll also quote I'll go to, there's 2 books out there that I recommend, especially if people have more than 10 employees. If you don't have more than 10 employees, you can look at this as something that you can do once you get to 10 employees. Okay. So there's a book called Rocket Fuel, and the second one is Traction. And the concepts from there are the visionary and the implementer. So there's often business owners are the big picture visionaries, and they have all these ideas and all these things, but they don't have someone to implement them. So I'm going to start working with a couple next week. And it was interesting. I kept that concept in mind. And the husband is the visionary. She is the doer, the implementer. Okay. She's just super happy. Give me a list of things to do and I'll go do them. I'll manage the team underneath. He goes, I hate doing that. So it's a good complementary thing. So in your husband's case, if he is, it's not so much whether he is out there driving sales, because I would say probably in construction, there's other ways to drive sales other than speaking. Okay. But is he a visionary, or is he an implementer or a doer? And if he has, less than 10 employees, maybe reading those books would give him, okay, in a couple of years, this is where I can go, but what can I take out of there to apply now? And I think this has been something when I'm working with clients is, where are you now? What is it that you need to drive your business now, but also look in the big picture? And there's so many things that we think, well, that'll work. Well, that'll work. And, the bright, shiny objects. But it's about really creating focus and driving the one or two things that you need to move your business forward right now. And then the next, and then the next.
Yes, I love that. The wealth dynamics broke it down because I have read Rocket Fuel and Traction and the US operating system. We've used a bunch of the tools to implement in the business,
Awesome.
which has been great. I do agree with you on those books and highly recommend them to every business owner. The wealth dynamics kind of broke it down into a few more categories because here there's like two. It just breaks it down a few other ones. And I found that it's just helpful and useful to kind of see where you can leverage your skills the best in terms of making money.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing is that, we all go through school. So if you think back to elementary school, high school, university, whatever it is, and you get a scorecard and they say, well, Diana, you're not very good at math, so you need to focus on your math skills. No. I look at business. What are you really good at? And let's double down on that.
Yeah. So I love that because it's a lot of self-awareness and, really leveraging.
Yeah. What's between the 7 inches here, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. What about people that are just starting a business? So going back to like self-awareness and how do you get things set up? Somebody comes to you, a client, and says, I'm just about to launch a new business. What advice would you give somebody that's just starting a new business?
I used to work with a lot of startups, and I don't anymore, typically. And I think that there are a number of things. So let me go back to the work less, profit more framework. And in the work less, profit more framework, there's 2 core pieces, and I won't get into the rest of them. There's 9 pieces, but there's 2 core pieces. One is vision, values, and mission. So what is your 1, 3, 5, and 10-year vision? What are your values for your business? And your business values typically are your personal values. So how do they fit in? And what is the mission? What is the purpose of your business? And the funny thing is that when we start our business, our purpose for our business may be very different than when we get 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road. Maybe when we started our business, our purpose was, let's just earn a little extra money for the family budget, right? And that's perfect. But as you get into business 5 years down the road, what keeps you going? And the more employees that you have, I'm sorry, but they really don't care that you're just adding a little more to the family budget. They need to buy into something bigger. They need to feel part of a purpose. And that's when purpose really, or mission really becomes important. So that's one thing. The second thing is what I call strategic planning. And strategic planning is not your typical annual planning. Yeah, people start at the December or January and they go, I'm making a plan and I'm setting my goals. And then where does it go? It becomes shelf help. They never look at it again. So I take planning a whole different level. It's about 90-day sprints. Mm-hmm. And it's not just 90-day sprints about your goals, but it's breaking those down into actionable steps, tick-offable to-dos in your 90 days. And that is a thing that will really help you stay focused and really help you move the needle. Whether you are just starting out, whether you're at 5 years, whether you're at 10 years, 90-day planning is so, so critical because the more planning you do, the more time you save in execution.
I appreciate that. We were actually working through our 90-day, like family 90-day plans this past weekend. So it is something new for us as a practice. I've been doing them for myself for the last couple of years, but this is a new practice, like as a couple, as a family. So it's been exciting and interesting to add that on. I think that's a really great productivity tip because it just allows you to gain that much clarity on what to say yes to, what to say no to, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
I find that as a business owner is way more about what I say no to than it is about what I'm saying yes to.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any other tips for business owners to manage their time effectively?
Um, I think one of the things, yeah, you just said, learning to say no. And another thing that's really important and that remind me, and I'll come back to productivity tips. But I think one of the big things is that business owners, it's not about the doing, it's about your role is to lead your business. And so it is a big mindset shift to go from chief everything officer to a true CEO. Okay, so that's the one thing. And being the leader of your business sometimes means you have to learn different skills, leadership skills, right? Okay. So productivity tips, how can you build your calendar, for instance? So most people, when they come to me and I go, okay, show me your agenda, whether it's your Google calendar, whatever it happens to be. And there's things all over the place. And there's no breathing room in there. Most of them don't even take lunch. So I always say, okay, you build a model, if you will, a model calendar, a model agenda. And the first thing I do is I say, okay, you've got to put in your vacation. But, no, your vacation. Then your lunch. You've got to put lunch. If you can't take care of yourself, who's going to? Right? So you have to build in lunch. You have to put in, if you're a family, or a mom, when are your kids required you? So I don't know about you, but sometimes, in my case, I don't work after 3. Nobody can make an appointment with me after 3 o'clock. So I set clear boundaries. No appointments after 3. There's 1.5 hours for lunch, and I don't take calls before 10 o'clock. And people will go, well. And I go, but that's my life. It's not your life. But what boundaries are you going to set? And be willing to stick to them. And there's all kinds of other productivity things like grouping like-minded things together. Like although I don't take calls on Monday, I may create content on Monday. And I group my client activities. My coaching activities are all on 2 days. I take Fridays off unless it's, I call it a flex day. So there's things about looking at your agenda and where are you willing to give and take? Where are you willing to give yourself that freedom and take care of yourself?
I love that. I'm a very keen believer in lifestyle freedom.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about time freedom, it's all a combination of things. In my case, I pick up my kids at school most days. So that means by 3:30, I have that blocked off in my calendar. It shows there, I'm blocked off because that's what I do. I enjoy picking them up. They like that I come and they like seeing me after school. So I'm like, I'm going to do it for as long as I can, as long as they still have me. And that's just an example of what you're saying, just making sure that whatever is of high importance to you. The other thing for me is the gym, being able to make out to the gym in the morning so I don't take calls before 10 a.m. either, because I'm giving my time.
There we go.
I'm giving myself that time to go work out and start my day right and have that opportunity. So I love that. I can again relate and have this energy there. You touched on leadership very quickly there, just in passing. So I'm going to circle back. What would you say is the biggest trait of a successful leader?
The biggest trait? Is that what?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Oh, of a successful leader. Good question. Now you're making me really think. I think, there's certainly listening, the ability to listen with an open mind. Leaders who, and I've coached so many different people, like hundreds of different industries, doesn't matter, but chief everything officers who come to me and want to become that CEO and want to step into that leadership down the role, if they aren't willing to listen to their management team, and if they're just sending everything down, right, like being the dictator, then I'm not sure how effective that is going to be. To me, being able to listen, give feedback, being open to opportunities is probably one of the biggest leadership skills. And, they have to also be aware of their own limitations and where they need assistance. That cover, I don't want to go deep into this because, there could be a whole podcast episode on it, right?
That is true. Leadership is a big one. No, I agree. I think so. Something that I've added to with my team, we do 90-day sort of reviews and feedback, and we have a set of questions, but I'll have them give feedback on me and answer the same questions about me as I'm answering about them. And that just opens up such an interesting level of conversation that wouldn't happen otherwise, unless they're really, encouraged and motivated to openly answer and give some feedback. That on the day-to-day, that just doesn't come out. So I find that so valuable and so interesting. And I tell them all the time, like, listen, I'm here to get better, just like you. I appreciate you giving me any feedback. And I really like those conversations and meetings. But you do have to be willing to listen and willing to not take it personally and willing to work on yourself, because that's really at the core of what leadership is, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. Good for you for doing that. A lot of CEOs, come down and they go, okay, everybody's going to have a job description, right? That's fine. But I say, okay, what's your job description? Write your own job description.
I find a problematic when there is nobody that's holding the CEO accountable to anything. Like we all need to have accountability. That includes the top. So what is the best way to do that? And making sure that everybody's accountable to something is a big deal,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Probably you took this from Traction or Rocket Fuel, but every employee should have a metric that they're responsible for, as should the CEO. And I don't mean just what's the profit level. What is your metric that you're responsible for? And so that is a way of keeping yourself sort of self-accountable. And you go, oh, like maybe your metric is, I don't know, getting out there and speaking on stages twice a month, okay? Or having so many sales conversations, whatever that metric happens to be. And if you're having regular team meetings and everybody else has to talk about their metric, the CEO has to talk about their metric too. Where are they? Yeah.
That's right. So important because, again, it's about self-improvement. And unless I have metrics and measurements and data to sort of, streamline progress, pivot, change, adapt, I can't really keep track.
Yeah.
I do have a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
What role does mindset play in the success of a business?
I say everything. So I'll share my own story, because I do think mindset is important. And, you know, I'm not a mindset coach, but mindset comes into everything. Okay. So when I started my coaching business, I remember having a conversation with someone saying, but I don't have a coaching degree, but I don't have and the person said, Diana, stop with the but I don't haves. And they said, never mind a coaching degree. I had X number of years of grassroots practical experience that no coaching degree would ever give me. Mindset comes into so many elements. So the other day, I was just taking a testimonial from a great friend of mine, a longtime client. And she said one of the biggest things that I helped her overcome was her money mindset, because she was undercharging. And she has many times over the time that we worked together increased her fees. And she's actually moving into adapting the whole EOS process at the moment. So it took a while for her to get to that point, but now she's at that point. But healing those money mindset issues and making her aware of what they were, otherwise she still would be pricing it, what was it, 2020 prices. And you can't do that and be profitable.
It definitely starts at the mind. That's how I see it. Anything that you're going to do that's going to manifest into, physical reality happens in your mind first. And that, to your point, goes for money, goes for value, goes for, how your business is going to look, the team that you're attracting. It all really starts on your mind and putting it together, finding the right, with money specifically. I think a lot of us don't even fully have the awareness of what do we think about money? How do we feel about money? What are our beliefs around money? Because it's just been ingrained from childhood, from environment, from...
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a family where success meant hard work. Okay. And the only way to success was through the hustle and the grind and the hard work. Well, I had to have that awareness first, and then kind of overcome that if I'm talking about working less and profiting more. Right? So yeah, there's a lot of things like that is part of culture, part of what we grew up with. I grew up with a mother who was a spendy Wendy. Okay. And I became aware of that. Well, I could see very easily I could become a spendy Wendy, and then there's other people who are penny pinchers but it comes from our culture. And when I say culture, it could be religious, it could be nationality, it could be social media. That's all part of our culture. And and as well as our experiences, what's our family dynamics, what happens in there. And so a lot of these money, I don't want to call them issues, our actions around money are predicated on what has happened and how we grew up, but they can change.
We can. Yeah. And that's I call it deep work.
Yes.
It's like going deeper within and understanding, becoming aware of what those are, and then changing the ones that don't serve you, exactly. and having the practice, because then it becomes a practice to change, which translates into your habits and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. So I do have one last question for you, and I end every podcast with the same question for my guests. The question is, if you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what message would you share with everybody?
The world's attention for 30 seconds. There's a saying that entrepreneurs who earn 10 times more don't work 10 times harder. And the second part of that would be, you can do it. I firmly believe that anybody who can focus, or anybody, who can focus, can create the vision for their business that they want.
Can you explain focus?
Ooh. Okay.
I lied. That's one more question, but I can't let you go without you telling me about that.
So think of a squirrel. A squirrel is out there darting up trees and going all around, and they're chasing each other. That is not focus. That is what most business owners do. Focus is making a commitment to one strategy, one set of vision, one goal for at least 90 days, and then another 90 days, and then another 90 days, and then another 90 days. So focus.
Okay.
I think there is an acronym for focus, but it doesn't come to me at the moment. Anyway.
I love your acronyms, by the way. I've been thinking about acronyms. They don't come as easy to me, but I love all your acronyms, and I think they're really helpful, easy to remember. Diana, it's been a huge pleasure having you here. I always quite enjoy talking to you. I feel like we should just have these regular chats, I'm up for that. That's called business coaching. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom and your tips and advice to all business owners and entrepreneurs out there. Where can people find you?
It's very easy. I have a website, dianalidstone.com, and they can find me there. They can find me on Facebook, dianalidstone.com. I am on LinkedIn as well, and that's about all the social media you will find me at. So yeah, there we are.
That's perfect. Thank you. Make sure to reach out to Diana, get onto a call with her, find out how she can help your business needs, how she can help you work less and profit more, which is the end goal for every entrepreneur. So thank you once again. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this episode to continue to learn and get great tips from great guests like Diana. Thanks, Diana. I will see you soon.
Thank you so much.